I want to bring another layer of meaning. We did a project. I worked with people at INSEAD and ComScore to do a report for the World Economic Forum. And we did a survey that was not the World Internet Project, but it was a Global Values Project. And we surveyed 13 countries. You can see them listed here. And it was an online survey, so we did not interview non-users, but just people who were using the internet online. But it was quite interesting, I found. What I define as I found what I think is the emergence of a new internet world. And what I mean by that, in very simple terms, is that the center of gravity of the internet is shifting to Asia and the rapidly developing countries. There is a developing global consensus on the values and attitudes of internet users worldwide. But some of the users in the rapidly developing countries and in Asia are even more supportive of some values around basic values of the internet, such as freedom of expression, than are people in the old internet world. And also, those new users in the developing world and Asia are actually more innovative in their use. I think the chairman mentioned in opening up that we're not top-down developing, we're trying to develop what users are doing. We're trying to find out, well, users are more innovative and more active in the developing world and Asia than they are in the old internet world. For example, you can see the center of gravity where Asia has now over 42% of internet users globally. You know, the US used to be the center of the internet world, and it still has, you know, high levels of penetration, over 70%. But there are more Chinese online than there are Americans on the planet, all right? So that the US is declining all the time as a proportion of internet users. North America is declining. Europe is declining as a proportion of internet users relative to the rest of the world. So this is a new internet world with a different center of gravity. When you look at things like trust and authenticity, people around the world have the same concerns as you do about trusting the authenticity. Am I talking to the person who I think I'm talking to? Am I buying the product that I think I'm buying? People are worried about that globally. But there's almost a developing consensus about that. And then I just want to skip to freedom of expression. Clearly, in every country we surveyed, most of the users felt a real support for freedom of expression online. China was maybe the only country where there was a significant portion of people who disagreed that access to the internet should be a fundamental right for all people. But again, the percentage of people who were disagreeing was very small. Less than 5% disagreed that strongly. So you saw real support for freedom of expression online. What's interesting, now this is the most interesting table for coming out of this World Values Survey. The pattern was, as the countries, the new internet countries, India, South Africa, Mexico, China, actually had smaller proportions of users, but their support for freedom of expression online was actually higher than in many of the old internet countries. Germany, for example. Why is Germany so low? You saw more uncertainty about freedom of expression in the old internet countries, the Web 1.0 world, than you do in the new internet countries. So I think that that's positive news, because that means that the diffusion of the internet, the new center of gravity of the internet, is not going to necessarily have a change in culture that will undermine freedom of expression and other values that are important to the internet. There also, you'll see that China, Brazil, India, dramatically high in percentage of people who produce online content daily or weekly. Who's really low? The UK, Australia, New Zealand, even the US and Canada. So you see the new internet world, the new users are really actively creating content. They're also actively using the internet daily or weekly for communication. So you've got an active users in the new internet world. I won't go through this, but I think that, I guess my question is Poland in the new internet world or in the old internet world? And I think you're probably in the old internet world with most of the rest of Western Europe and Europe generally, in that you're more focused on Web 1.0 applications, and but I think you're moving in the direction of the new internet world, in the sense that users are becoming more active. But there's still uncertainty about freedom of whether support for the internet and as a free and trusted media and so forth. So I think there's a moment of decision in Poland about where you sit in this worldwide map. But clearly, just to summarize, I tried to reflect on what I saw from the early results of the World Internet Project team, and it's clear that Poland is clearly among the League of Nations in Europe. It's in the top 10 nations of Europe in terms of access to the internet. Digital divides, like in Britain, are still a very significant issue, and I think that around the world, the digital divide does not disappear, and in fact, what we're seeing is new digital divides, like the next generation user. There's this healthy skepticism towards the internet in Poland that it's actually quite dramatic in terms of the 50%, 50-50 splits on some of the issues about whether the internet is a good idea or not. But very interesting. So I think that there's a way in which there's a lack of, there's still not a decision made that the internet is an important, essential aspect of information in Poland, as opposed to some other countries. There is concern over the key issues of privacy, trust, and freedom of expression. It's very worrisome that you have this sense of being watched online, and I think that could be changing globally if Jeff Cole is right, that Big Brother is big business. This could have a huge chilling effect on the future of the internet. It could be absolutely a disaster if people do not try to protect the internet as a place where you can have secure, anonymous, free and open expression and get access to information you want and need. But I think, despite that, it's clear that there's evidence in the survey that I saw that Poland is at a tipping point, because you can see it in the younger people in Poland beginning to use the internet in ways that are closer to the next generation user. So, and also, I think that Poland is perhaps different as well, because in terms of the amount of information that is available in Polish content is probably, significantly less than in English content online. And I think the degree to which more and more content is being produced for the internet and digitally, born digital and through other media, available in Polish and so forth, then the internet is going to reach a tipping point where it becomes as essential for everyday information as it is in other countries with more content online. And I think the next generation user is on the rise. Now, we don't know this because we only have 2 years, but I would predict that I would put dollars to donuts that in 1 or 2 years, you'll see a rise in next generation users in Poland. You can see that the next generation user in Poland versus the UK is much greater gap than in access to the internet generally, where they're actually very close. Some 62% versus 72%. There's not a great difference between Poland and Britain in access to the internet. Where you see the difference is the next generation user. And given the trends I've already heard from your survey, it sounds like the next generation user is coming in Poland. So I think it's coming. I think Europe could be the old internet world, but that's not because of industry or that's not because of design, it's because of users. And I think users are changing, and the new users, and we see in the younger people in Poland, are actually going to be changing that. And I think, so there's evidence that Poland is at this tipping point, and I can't wait to see what happens in the future in your country. But thank you very much for inviting me here.